Hey guys, so we are looking at TPCASTT, and instead of having you listen to me in person nonstop and me waste your time, I decided I'd make a video showing you how to use TPCASTT. That way, if you're not familiar with it, you can see how it works, and if you are familiar with it, you can use this as like a catch-up, touch-up kind of situation, help your memory, and then move on with your day. My goal is to make this as sweet and short as I possibly can. So I'm going to walk you through this, and then you're done as far as notes for today. So the first thing you need to know is what TPCAST stands for, right? So if you look along the side here, we have title, paraphrase, connotation, attitude, shift, title, and theme. So that's what our acronym stands for. Now, first step is title. So we know we're reading something called Ozymandias, but you're not supposed to read it and then read the poem first. You're supposed to read the title as it stands. So I did a cold read of this. So the question is, what do the words of the title suggest to you? What denotations are presented in the title? What connotations or associations do the words possess? So for me, since I hadn't read this poem before, title is obviously a name, right? We know it's somebody, but I'm not sure if it's a real person or not. For me, it makes me think of the movie Watchmen. Yes, some of you might have caught that too. Ozymandias in the movie has an Egyptian outfit, so perhaps he's supposed to be Egyptian. Not sure, but when we read, we will find out, right? So let's take a look at the poem below, and then we'll go through the steps. So Ozymandias by Pierce Shelley. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, of shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my work, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing besides remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. So, our next is to paraphrase, right? So, I have read this poem now like 4 times, so I can easily paraphrase it. You might have to read yours a couple times too before you get to that point. It is fine. You'll notice too when you read, look for your punctuation. That's going to give you some help. So, for example, I met a traveler from an antique land who said, and then if you notice, now we're having speech. So this is someone else talking. And if you look for your commas, make sure you're pausing at your commas. The capitalization doesn't mean much unless there's a period after. There are semicolons. So look for that. So, end of his sentence and then the final sentence here. So this is really only like 3 or 4 sentences long. So make sure you look for that because it will help you with understanding your poem. So paraphrase. Translate the poem in your own words. What is the poem about? So the poem is about the narrator's conversation with a traveler. The traveler tells him that in the desert there's a destroyed statue of a king, and the king does not look like a good person, but nothing is left of that kingdom, and nothing is left to impress anybody, and even the man's statue is shattered, so there's really nothing left of him. So it's kind of ironic. Connotation. So paraphrasing is pretty easy. It doesn't have to be long. And like I said, since that was only like 4 sentences, you're not going to get much longer than that. So you have form. So Ozymandias is a sonnet in iambic pentameter. But now it does break some rules. So keep that in mind. The end rhyme is not what it really should be, but it is a sonnet in iambic pentameter. The diction, we have a lot of alliteration going on, and some of the words used are supposed to make you think of stuff that's cold. Imagery, if you look, I have some examples. Vast and trunkless, half sunk, shattered visage, frown and wrinkled lip, sneer of cold command. This is a really unpleasant king. This is not someone that you would want to hang out with. He is probably one of those kings you hear about who is happy to kill people. We have our point of view. This is a first-person speaker who is relaying this information, but we don't really know who this person is. Details, we have colossal wreck, boundless and bare, lifeless thing. So these details are supposed to add to the feeling that the statue is out in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing around it, including the man's kingdom. It is gone. Illusion. Now, I had to cheat and look this up because I did not know this. If you knew this, points to you. That's awesome. But Ozymandias is the Greek name for an Egyptian pharaoh named Ramesses II, who was around in 1300 BCE. Now, I'm not putting this in there because it is still cheating, but it's also an allusion to Napoleon. This poem was written around the same time as Napoleon was starting his wars, and so I think it's supposed to be also an allusion to what's happening currently during that time period. We have some symbolism. The shattered statue of the king shows us. Not supposed to be shows up. It would help if it was right. That life and power are fleeting. Only the art survived. So, again, remember this is written by a poet, so he might have some feelings about that, right? Figurative language, we have a lot of personification of the statue. It's slow and sure. It builds towards you seeing his personality. And you're not supposed to be overly impressed with who he is as a person. And then other devices, the big one that stands out is irony. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my work, ye mighty, and despair. And then right next to that, nothing beside remains. So he's telling you to look upon what he owns, and even in death, he's not even well remembered. The attitude. So what is the speaker's attitude? How does the speaker feel about himself, about others, about the subject? You don't have to answer all of that. You're looking for which one applies. What is the author's attitude? How does the author feel about the speaker, about other characters, about the subject, about the reader? Again, you're not going to answer all of that, most likely. You're going to probably pick the one that matches the best. So mine is going to be about the subject. So the speaker's attitude toward the subject of Ozymandias is that of contempt. He finds the king to be cold and unkind. The author may feel similar to the speaker. We can't really say they're the same thing, right? But we can probably guess that he probably feels the same. It seems that the speaker feels disgust for those who use power to subjugate others. Think about how he's describing Ozymandias and the fact that people are forced to work for him, and the way he treats his sculptor, and you can see it's not very pleasant. The fact that only the statue remains suggests that the author may feel that art may outlive even kings, and it might also speak to the person who made the sculpture, right? Outlives the king even. Shifts. Where do the shifts in tone, setting, voice, or whatever occur? Look for time and place, keywords, punctuation, stanza division, changes in length or rhyme, and sentence structure. One of those things may happen, or all of those things may happen. Each poem is different. What is the purpose of each shift? How do they contribute to the effect and meaning? So the shift happens for our poem on line 12. Nothing beside remains, round the decay. The author spends time building up this imposing figure of the king, then tells readers that nothing is left of this man's kingdom. So how does that contribute to the meaning? Well, it adds to the theme, right? It's telling us that no matter what you do as far as trying to be powerful and imposing and terrible, that doesn't necessarily mean you will be remembered. Title, so we reanalyze the title, right? Now you can go back after reading it and look at the title again through a different lens. So reanalyzing the title on an interpretive level, what part does the title play in an overall interpretation of the poem? So the title is somewhat foreign. If you're not used to hearing the name Ozymandias, it might sound a little like, who is that? And I use the word other in quotation, because the idea of the other, right? An outsider to the readers who don't know who the subject is. This adds to the meaning as the king is isolated in a desert, forgotten, no longer impressive, and forgot even to even modern people in some cases, right? The only thing that's really left to help remember this guy is the poem, which is kind of ironic. And then finally, theme. List the subjects and the abstract ideas in the poem. Then determine the overall theme. What message is the author trying to convey? What lesson is being taught? The theme must be written in a complete sentence. Now, keep in mind, a poem might have many themes. I'm not going to ask you to list every single one. Go with the one you think you can defend the best and talk about the best. So some subjects in this are art, power, decay, and memory. And a theme seems to be a man's power does not matter once he's gone. And I use man as in mankind. This lesson is for any reader, but may also be aimed at those seeking power. So that is TPCASTT. As you can see, this maybe took me about 30 to 40 minutes to do. It's not a super fast, easy to do situation. Unless you're really familiar with the poem, then it is pretty easy. But it does help you think about the poem on a different level and get some better information for it, okay? So that is all I have for you guys. If you need any help, email me, obviously, and you'll be doing your own TPCASTT over a poem, okay? Okay. Have to